Hi, everyone, and welcome. Diane Willock, Supermums Customer Success here in the U.S., joined by Maria Stanford again, Customer Success in the U.K. And we're here today to talk to you about what a Salesforce admin is. We're going to just talk about some of the questions that we get asked about Salesforce admins and the roles that they do, and as well as how can you become one if you're interested. So maybe we'll just go over what the basic roles are of a Salesforce admin. So Maria, maybe we always talk about the four roles of Salesforce admin. Do you want to start, or I could start, whatever you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, you go for it if you want to start, and then I'll just chip in, shall I?
Yes. So the basic four roles of Salesforce admin, we talk about this a lot, and it can change depending on what type of an organization you work for, and if you're the single Salesforce admin for an organization, or if you're part of a team. But we like to kind of put it in into four basic roles of Salesforce admin. First one being what we call the doctor. I love these, titles for, I love this. The doctor, which is the doctor is basically the person that is kind of doing that check on your system, right? Doing the check on the Salesforce system for your organization, making sure that you're fixing any problems, if there's any updates that come through, that you're implementing the updates. So it's really about doing that health check of your org for your company. And that's kind of considered your doctor role. The second one would be the guardian. The guardian is taking care of the security of the system. So fixing any problems that might arise, troubleshooting, making sure the data integrity is there, that you have data compliance in your system. So that's just kind of, again, managing the security of your system for your organization. Third role of a Salesforce admin is what we call the cleaner. So the cleaner is the person that is making sure that data is accurate and that there's no duplicates in your system, that you're looking for, poor intelligence gathering, or, analyzing your system and just making sure that the data that you have in there is accurate and timely, and that you're collecting the data that you want. And then the fourth role for an Salesforce admin is the leader. So this is the kind of the most important one, and the one that you have the most, I guess, autonomy on, and you can grow the most in this role. And that one is basically making sure that everybody is utilizing the system in the correct way, that you're gathering the right requirements of that system, doing a lot of business analysis and customizing the system to how your organization needs it, making sure that you're utilizing any apps and integrating any other systems to your Salesforce. So that section is that leader section, again, is where some of your other skill sets come in, your business analysis skill sets. But those are the four basic Salesforce roles that we like to talk about. And then again, depending on the organization that you work for, it might look a little bit different, and you might be more responsible for a part of those roles, right, Maria? Maybe you're just working more on the security side as a Salesforce admin. If you're working as part of a team, if you are the solo admin for an organization, you're really the expert and you are the leader of that system, and you might be doing everything. So it just really depends on what that role is.
It's all hats, isn't it, when you're a solo admin? And I love those descriptions, because it kind of gives you an idea of how that role is then broken down, kind of as you look at that whole CRM, and kind of what you're responsible for as an admin. Sometimes you just need something tangible, don't you? So they're really good descriptors of kind of what you need to be doing in different areas. And as you say, Diane, I think, if you are a solo admin, you need to be covering all of those competencies and all of those skills, but also then, and the same with the team admin, because you're still going to have those transferable skills, but you might be in one particular section, as you said. But thinking about those four key areas and those four key roles, there's some really kind of specific transferable skills actually that match isn't there?
Yes.
By the way of, critical thinking,
Right.
problem solving, that communication piece, all of those things are really great transferable skills, aren't they?
Right. And I
For
think
that
that's some of the
admin role.
questions we get, right? We get a question like, well, is this the right role for me? A Salesforce admin role, is this the direction that I want to take? So we talk about exactly what you said. Some of the questions we get, again, is this, am I going to like this? Am I going to want to do that Salesforce admin role? And we go back to that. Do you like solving problems? Do you like to be that, critical thinker? Do you like having, kind of that, overall picture of your system and finding out, creative ways to make sure that that system is working for your organization? Do you like having those leadership skills? And do you like fixing things? If you enjoy that, and the Salesforce admin role might be a good fit for you. So what are some other questions that we get from individuals that are asking us about, Salesforce admin roles and if it's right for them?
I would say probably the biggest role, the biggest question that I get asked about the admin role or coming and training, with us or, around Salesforce is the technical side of it.
Right.
Definitely the technical. I think probably if I had 10 calls in 1 week, definitely that would have been mentioned on all 10 calls, for example, So it's something that's always, I think, burning there of kind of, okay, I've got an idea of what this might be, but I must have to have a technical background, or I must have to have some kind of coding background or have experienced that in IT. And actually, you don't have to have that kind of background. And I think that's actually hard to grasp.
Right.
But obviously, we help people do that by the way of showing demos, obviously in discovery sessions. And as you say, by breaking it down into those 4 roles, you can start to understand
Right.
actually that there's a lot more to the admin role than the technical side of that, isn't there? And that technical skill.
Right.
But,
Right.
that is something that can be taught. Some of these transferable skills can't be. Some of our natural skills and strengths, can't actually be taught, but the technical side of it certainly can, which is
Right.
which is the biggest takeaway.
And I would say most of the people that we meet with are not from a technical background. So
Yeah.
most of the people that are enrolling in training courses or wanting to become a Salesforce admin are not from a technical background. So that's a really important point. I get that question too. I don't have any background in IT. I, haven't been using technology lately. Is this going to be, hard for me to do? Will I be able to learn it? And absolutely you can, because we really, and especially in our training courses, we take you from, I always say this, take you from like 0 to 100. You start with really nothing and no knowledge of it. By the end, you're really an expert. And you don't have to have that technical background. You're learning the technology, yes, but there's so many other skills that you learn, and there's all kinds of transferable skills that you probably already have that would make you a good fit for being the Salesforce admin. So it's a great entry into Salesforce ecosystem, right? I mean, those roles will teach you a lot about what you like with Salesforce, and then you can go on to certify in other areas, create your own niche, and be an expert in a particular area in Salesforce. But starting with that foundation and what a Salesforce admin does is really a great way to have gain your entry into that Salesforce ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. It's that springboard, isn't it, onto something else? And I think also it's important, and probably, something that I hadn't realized before I'd actually spoken to somebody yesterday is, because it's such a rich ecosystem where that is your springboard and you can go and do all those other certifications and you can have that career progression and quite quickly, really, in the grand scheme of things. You don't always have to be going at those great rate of knots. you can
Right.
actually
Right.
just sit and enjoy the role that you're doing. But,
Mhm.
you might want to progress a little bit later on because, somebody I was speaking to yesterday said, but I just want to stay as an admin. I don't really want to have, I don't really want that career progression. And that might feel like that right now. You don't have
Mhm.
to have everything mapped out, do you? As
No.
you can
Right.
just focus on that first entry point. But sometimes people do have an understanding of where they want to be in that ecosystem because of their past experience or career, right? So
Right.
things like consultancy or business analysis. And that's why we've created created a career bundle, because actually we know that admins,
Mhm.
as Diane said, around those four roles, they're really critical. But also, it is more, isn't it? That the admin role is more than just being that kind of administrator behind the scenes. You do have to have a little bit of project management and be able to extract the right answers with good questioning, and actually even probably a coaching element, all of
Right.
those
Right.
things, isn't it?
Right.
Actually that communication piece, that change management, making sure that you're doing that business analysis before you're implementing something. So I
Mhm.
think, we know that admins need to be, experienced in those things or have good exposure to that. And the consultancy piece does allow you to do that. It adds that next layer on, doesn't it, of knowledge, those softer skills.
Right. And how to harness those softer skills. What do you do with these other skills that you have beyond, your Salesforce admin skills? So we at Supermoms training, we have a special program that we offer to individuals where if you sign up for one of our admin courses, you can also get our consultancy skills course at half off. And that is a really attractive package for
Yeah.
people looking to kind of make the most impact, on the market, and how they can get into a broader range of roles because they have those other skill sets. Again, project management skill sets, a lot of business analysis that we go over, and just communication and how to gather requirements from your organization. So that consultancy skills class is very important if you're looking to just add on, right, to your
Mhm.
overall. I say this all the time when I talk to individuals. It's like your Salesforce package, add on to your package, so that you have a really good comprehensive skill set, and you can place yourself in those roles beyond just a Salesforce admin. So that's what we offer to at Supermoms. And we had a couple questions come up as you
Oh,
were
should we
talking.
go
So,
for
finding one of the questions came from somebody in Facebook, asked, how do you find those junior entry level positions? So I'm assuming that you can find those because there are a lot of, junior and entry level positions. I think it's more about, how do you get into those roles, right? How do you do that? When this is a question that I get asked quite a bit, is if you don't really have that experience, how do you get into, those roles? So it is important. I think, as part of Supermoms training, we do provide live work experience. So you have some experience before you go and put yourself out there in the marketplace. But also, as you're looking for Salesforce roles, it's important to keep in mind that you're definitely harnessing what your transferable skills are. So try to think beyond just the platform and the Salesforce skills that you've learned, but think about what are those other areas and experience that you had that will transfer very well into that Salesforce role. Take a look at each Salesforce role, make sure you know the job description and you understand what they're looking for and what they need. If you have industry specific knowledge, that is very highly regarded. So, if there is a Salesforce role that's open in a particular industry that you've worked in before, make sure that you are, pointing that out on your resume and in your profile. Make sure everyone is aware of that specific industry experience that you've had. Also, I think this has come up quite a bit too, is sometimes Salesforce admin roles are not advertised as Salesforce admin roles. So don't limit yourself to just looking for entry level roles with a job title of Salesforce admin or junior Salesforce admin. They might be business analyst. They might be listed as a consultant, but it really is kind of more in that admin role. They might be listed as, some type, a manager role, a sales role, customer success role. So it's important to make sure you're not limiting yourself to just looking for those junior Salesforce admin roles, because they can all be titled different and they can all look different. So that's something. Anything else you want to add to that question?
Yeah, I would say exactly that. And like I say to some of our trainees, I'd taken a screenshot actually of a list of different names actually that admins can go under. And I can't find it at the minute, but perhaps I can pop it into the chat after when I found it.
Right.
Because you are right. Some of those names are obviously not even junior or entry level, and they might not even have Salesforce Administrator in them.
Right.
But what I would say is once you can start to see that they are the roles that you're looking to go for off the back of your training, is that, when I say to trainees and I speak to them about what kind of flexibility they might like or what employers they might like to work for, it's important to have a wish list. And employers do exactly the same thing, don't they? So they have a wish list of all of the things that they would like to hit for that role. And that's what they're going to go out to market with. But actually, if they have a candidate who hasn't got that experience, but definitely has the transferable skills and is the right fit for that culture, they might just take a punt on that. So it's really important to be making sure, as Diane was saying, that don't be put off by these job descriptions, because as coaches, we would be challenging you and saying, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Right.
What's the worst that's going to happen? You might actually land that role because you go in and prove to them that you've got all of these wonderful transferable skills, and that you're going to go in and learn and grow and take everything on board. So I think, just like we speak to people and say, have that wish list of employers and that flexibility and all of that, employers do exactly the same. They want to perhaps have a bit of experience, but I don't think it's not set in stone.
Right.
So I would, just be looking at those roles, looking at the descriptions. If it's something that you think that you're going to enjoy, and that you match some of those, then go for it.
Go for it. Right. And I think 2 tips as a career coach, just thinking on, your best options. One, doing that research is so important. Research in the industries that you want to be in. And again, if you have a background as an accountant and you're learning Salesforce, and you want to look at maybe those firms that would be good for your transferable skills as an accountant, look at those industries. Almost every industry is going to have someone like a Salesforce admin or an administrator. So take a look, look at it from the, a backwards point of view, is looking at the industries and researching the companies, and then looking what roles are available in that organization, versus just kind of looking for the role and happen to be in whatever industry. So if you have a particular affinity for an industry or an area, if you're in higher education, those are great transferable skills. Look at the organizations that use Salesforce and higher organizations, higher ed organizations, and start building your list from there of those organizations. And then the other tip I would add in is get to know, maybe in your local area, who are some, great recruiters that people have used before. Have a good relationship with some recruiters that can help you, in the Salesforce arena. And also get to know your community, your Salesforce community. Be active in your Salesforce community. A lot of times there's career fairs or online or in-person career fairs. If you get a chance to go to an in-person event, I would say that is your best bet to meet people and network. So there's a lot of different approaches you need to take. Take a look at what you're doing right now. As coaches, Marie and I do this all the time, and kind of analyze each person's situation and figure out, where are the gaps? What are you doing that you could maybe, what are you not doing that you could do better? But look at your gaps and figure out, what is your approach to your career and job search, and start looking at it from a Salesforce point of view, which is like a 360 view, right? You can't just do one thing. You need to do a lot of other, you need to do a lot of other tasks to be able to have that successful job search and job attainment. So I hope that answered that question. That's a long question.
So a lot of info there, but it is an important one, isn't it? Because sometimes you don't always see those entry level roles visible. So you kind of think, where are these? Where, I'm just new. But sometimes our own blockers are ourselves. I've seen this to somebody today. Sometimes we don't go for that role because we kind of think, oh no, we're not experienced enough, or we perhaps haven't got that level of confidence to go for it. But we do encourage people, don't we, to kind of go, this, you can step out of that. And actually, it's a really good learning process, isn't it? When you go and start to interview and you can plug those knowledge gaps, you get more experienced. And as long as you're taking those learnings on, and not being despondent or feel like you're being knocked down, it's a place to grow and get stronger actually in that interview process, isn't it?
Right. And remember, those recruiters might have access to they do have access to other roles that are not advertised. Most roles that are open, a majority of roles that are open are not actually ever advertised, so your recruiter might have, I kind of compare it to, when you're going out to look for a house, and you see houses that are advertised, but your realtor really has, pocket listings. They have those listings that they know about that no one else knows about. So think of your recruiters that way too. So if you can get a good relationship, and how to find a good recruiter is, go to people that are in the Salesforce ecosystem right now, ask how they got in, and go to your friends, go to your Salesforce community, and ask about that, who's a trusted, and start building those relationships. So it's just a multifaceted approach, to your job search. And so the next question we have is, thanks for the great session. Thank you. I'm not from an IT background, perfect, but I am studying and preparing for Salesforce Admin certification and looking for hands-on experience. Where can I find an internship? This is another question that we get all the time, I would say. Probably a lot of people ask that question. It's tough because you want to have that experience. So, you can look for advertised internships too. A lot of nonprofits will need, help. So I would suggest probably looking for maybe some contract roles too. Sometimes the shorter term contract roles are a great way for you to get some experience, and get that hands-on experience. And if you can't, again, our Supermums admin training program, we provide this for you. It's part of our admin training, is we have a work experience in there. So you have that, experience to go off of. But if you can't get that, just try to, again, source some internships, source some ways that you can volunteer your experience. And if you can't do that, start building out and using some of the things that you've learned and kind of build your own experience, so to speak. I mean, that's the best way. And showcase it. Make sure that you're showcasing what you've been doing in the system and what you've been building, because you're going to want to, show how you understand all the components of Salesforce. And I know it's hard to do if you don't have that hands-on experience. So I don't know if you have any other tips, Maria, because we get this question a lot.
Yeah, we do. And it is something, that it's tricky, because it's kind of, you've got all of those skills and you want to test them out, but you then don't have a place or a safe space to be able to go and do that really in a real life setting. So as Diane was saying, that's why we knew that was an important pillar in our course, because actually, you invest in and you're embedding that learning within the first 12 weeks. Then you're actually testing out those skills in a real life environment that is a safe environment, because you've got your mentor to hand, you've generally got the lead admin or the consultancy that's going to help and guide you, and it's the first time that you're going to be kind of troubleshooting on your own and doing all of those things. So it is a really important piece of the puzzle. I would say, at this stage, if you are looking to go and get that hands-on experience, it's probably, best to try and volunteer, and try and do that. Or as Diane said, if you can actually build this out, as you're going through your self-study and take examples, but actually you can start to talk about that in an interview situation, for example. So I would certainly start to look to explore that. But again, I would be saying, would having that hands-on experience stop you from perhaps going for a job? No. You can always go for that. Sometimes, again, that can be a barrier, but as long as you can interview well and you can demonstrate your skills, then you stand a good chance. But it's always harder if you haven't physically had that work experience piece.
Right.
That's
I
something
agree.
that is
Mhm.
really valuable to our trainees, and we know that that's a really important piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
But just keep going, I would say, is keep going and keep looking for that internship or that volunteering opportunity if you can.
And I think Sharia kind of is commenting off of that, which is basically, going through Trailhead on your own and doing your certification, difficult to get calls for interviews, no actual work experience. So this is an opportunity, Sharia, for you to analyze what you mean by no work experience. So if you're talking about no work experience with Salesforce because you've been learning it, that's understandable. But if you're talking about zero work experience, that's another item to talk about. But if you have had past work experience, this is something that again, Maria and I talk about all the time with our trainees and in our coaching calls. We talk about what transferable skills do you have. If you have work experience, and you can point to those areas in your work experience that are going to translate very well into your Salesforce role, that's going to be recognized, and you'll start getting those calls for interviews. And again, just best practices. What type of roles are you trying to or what type of roles are you applying for? Maybe they're not the appropriate roles for the experience that you have. So think about widening that picture of the roles that you're applying for. Think about making more connections. It's again, that 360 approach that I talked about, where you can't just apply for roles. You might have to do some more behind the scenes networking. You have to do some connecting with individuals. You have to start thinking of your job search as really, your job, your job at the time, and what can you do better to make sure that you're approaching it at all levels and all areas. So networking, reaching out to individuals, just doing some basic, what I like to say is informational interviews too. Find somebody in a role that you think would be a good fit for you and ask them about it. How did they get into that role? What makes them good at their job right now? What suggestions would they have for you? So do some of that research and set yourself up to know about the market a little bit more, know about the roles that you'd be good for, take a look at your past experience and your transferable skills, and also make those connections. Start being active in your community and making connections, and advocating for yourself, really putting that message out there to advocate for yourself. Make some connections with some recruiters, and see if there's a good fit for you, and they'll help you too, because they'll be your advocate for those roles. So you won't be on your own.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough.
It
Some
is.
people think, getting interviews is a numbers game. You got to send out hundreds of resumes to be able to you can work that way if you want to. But for me, I think it's more about, being focused and understanding the right roles for you and what's going to be. Pay attention to the job descriptions. Make sure that you are customizing everything you do based on those specific roles. Reach out to people, and you'll find that you'll get, more response if you're doing it that way as well.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point there, actually, Diane, because gone are the days where you can just actually put your CV in and interview.
Right.
It is about networking, isn't it? It is about your LinkedIn branding. It is about actually, I can see obviously that you are on LinkedIn. So, it's about what value potentially you're giving in, who's seeing your name, how can you start to build those connections and add value in there. And so there's so many other key parts, isn't there, to that job hunt and that job search, that you need to be making sure that you're utilizing all of those other areas, as well as building that relationship with the recruiters, and potentially kind of again looking for that volunteering piece.
And if
there's lots to it.
Yeah, there's lots to it. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just going to put in the point, if you're working right now and you're in an organization, see if there's something in your organization that you can, and they're utilizing Salesforce, see if there's something in the organization you could do for Salesforce. If you know someone or a friend or someone that's working for an organization, you can ask to maybe work on a project. I think that, if anytime you're shifting careers, it doesn't really matter, even shifting into Salesforce or shifting into any new career takes time. I think we all think, you learn the technology and there you are, but it does. It takes time to shift into a new career. And then once it starts, that's when you really see, the fast growth and the opportunities come up. So I guess just treat this, career shift like you would treat anything that you really want to process it well and make sure that, you're taking the time to research and understand everything about, that Salesforce ecosystem and those roles that you're applying for. It really does. Every time I've done my career shift, it's not overnight. I've shifted my career, I would say 3 times now, probably majorly, and it takes time. I mean, I do, the learning and the skilling up and prepare for, for months to be able to shift into that role and learn as much as I can. So always be a constant learner, have that mindset, that growth mindset of learning as much as you can. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there for roles that you think might be above your pay grade, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and get started.
Yeah. And I think actually we touched on it on this last point is, if you're waiting to get the interview calls, actually, why don't you take it to them? So again, it's that wish list. Who would you like to work for? What value pillars are matched here? Who would be your ideal employer? And then doing actually that direct outreach. Sometimes we can wait, can't we, for these things to come to us, but actually being tenacious and going out and getting them for yourself. It also gives you that opportunity to do, as Diane said, for the previous question, that research piece about a company. So actually then if you do get an interview, you are fully up to speed on that. So you then start to interview more confidently. So, that's another way that you can do that. If you're waiting to get the interview, don't wait, go and seek them.
Such a good point. That is such a good point, Maria. That is such a good point because it's just, I think that comes up in our discussions too, is what's the appropriate, follow-up. And a lot of times I talk to individuals who are talking to their, I just had actually a call like this not too long ago, talking to a recruiter. And I said, well, what was the, follow-up? They said they'd get back to me or something like that. Well, you have to remember that recruiter has a lot of other individuals they're working with. So if you're not going to be at the top of their mind, it's just as much they could, forget about you as well. So make sure that you are following up with them. You don't have to be, I think sometimes people think I don't want to be that pain, that person that's always, a nag and following, but no, there's professional ways to go about it and do it. And but you also have to be in control, right? It's so much better if you're in control of your message and what you're doing versus having someone else have that control. So have control of that and take control of those situations and be the person that follows up, ask for feedback, make sure you're asking for feedback. If you're not hearing from someone, why? Ask for feedback and see what they say. Make sure that you're applying for those roles too. I always think just a basic good tip too is apply for roles on an organization's, website. Don't always just look at, the job sites or job boards. Look at the actual organizations and apply in a different way. Find out who, the hiring manager is. Do all that great, background research and, and take that multi-factored approach. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you, Whitney. I'm glad you said that. All great points. Thanks.
And I've just popped our Calendly link actually in the comments here. So, certainly if anybody is looking to do that transition and looking to train, then certainly you can come and just chat through any points or kind of come and just sit with us and we can work out what those next steps might look like for you. So, Diane and I would love to be able to do that with you.
Yes, and just as a reminder, we do have, if you're thinking about Salesforce admin training, we have our next course starting in February. So February 21st in the UK, and we have a US cohort starting on February the 23rd. So we are enrolling, and again, we do have a special too that if you're thinking about it, adding on more skill set, even you can sign up for our February admin course and also get our consultancy course for half off. So we'd love to talk to you more about it. That's part of our, part of our goal is to talk to you and find out, is this a good fit for you? Would this training program be a good fit for you? So feel free to book in a time on our calendars. We'd love to talk to you more and just give you some more of these tips, one-on-one, right? And talk through it and see if this program might be a good fit for you.
Absolutely. And what I will say is we had a fantastic boot camp, didn't we? That has now officially finished, but the actual private Facebook group is still open until the 12th of February. So if you wanted to come and have a look at that content, because it's absolutely jam-packed, isn't it, with info of all about relaunching your career into Salesforce, then come and still sign up for that. There is still time for you to come in and explore the group. And again, there's been some great questions that have been asked of our boot campers. So you can kind of tap into all of that as well, which is a great resource. So there's still time to join in and hop that. So I've actually popped that link in the chat as well. And as I say, that closes on the 12th of February. So plenty of time to get in and rewatch those videos.
I was scurrying trying to find the link for that. And then I realized that I'm looking around, and that I'm glad you said that, because I was scurrying around trying to look. But just at the beginning of our comment section, there is the Relaunch Your Bootcamp link. So definitely you can look back over our content that we have over the last week. It was great. We had some great just career content, and advice for anybody interested in Salesforce. So definitely go and check it out. And contact us if you have any other questions.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Been brilliant questions again this week. I'm loving the questions.
Yeah.
And as I think we said last week, sometimes there are those kind of common questions that we do get asked. Although everybody's journey is so individual, and everybody's drivers and all of those are so individual to each person, we do get common questions, don't we, that everybody thinks and feels, and before they take those next steps. So it is nice to be able to share what those are, because you're not alone, because there might be people who are in the boot camp or watching who kind of think, oh, I'm just not sure about this, or so you're not alone with actually thinking some of these questions. They're quite common for us to be able to answer,
right, because we've probably seen it. We've probably seen it and heard it. And so we share our experience, right, of everybody else that we've talked to. We can tell you, you're definitely not alone. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to individuals and I said, oh yeah, I've just spoke to another, trainee or potential trainee that is in your same situation. So it helps to hear that, because that you're not the only one, or, you're not going to be alone. And then you're going to have a whole group and a peer of individuals like that if you are in a training program. So that helps. That support is just wonderful. So I think that's it. It was great talking to everybody. We went long today.
I know. We're getting longer and longer.
I know. So if you keep having questions, we stay on, but pop the questions in, and we'll come back to them later in the day as well and answer some of those. And we can also continue on. We'll be here next week as well, and some more great tips from us next week. So definitely look forward to seeing everybody. And again, just reach out to us, pop the question in the comments, and we'll get back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Diane, for hosting.
Bye, Maria.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.